Hello everyone, welcome to Sunya IAS and welcome to this lecture. Today we are going to talk about a very important topic which will gain the attention of a lot of people who are watching this video. In fact, so many people from the new generation, the people who have just passed class 12th, are in class 10th, they are getting attracted to the civil services because of this phenomena of social media. And this has now become a boon also and a bane also, and we will talk about how it has become both, right? So yes, so the thing is, when we talk about social media, it is, we are a free country, everyone is allowed to use social media and everyone should be allowed to use social media. But what is the fine line where you stop someone, and why is this necessary to study for the UPSC examination? Please remember, when you study for this examination, never get diverted from what you actually need to do for the exam. For the exam, you need to see where this topic fits. So social media and the civil servants, this topic fits in GS2 for sure, right? Even in civil services reforms in GS2 governance section, this will fit very nicely. And in GS4, in case studies, you can get a case study which is similar to this one. Where people are using social media, and you know how civil servants are using social media and sometimes misusing social media as well. Then civil services values is also a topic from GS4, and here the social media aspect can again be important. So a lot of interlinkages can be made. Of course, if you get a philosophical question on essay, you can use this particular topic. So before moving forward, let's just first talk about the notes aspect of it. Now, when you talk about the notes aspect of it, many of you ask in the comments that where will we get the notes for this class? One way of getting the notes is Sunya IAS books, Sunya IAS Mains books for GS that are available online. You can order. The second way is to make handwritten notes. Okay. So please don't ask for the PDFs. In the very beginning of the class, I have told you that either you can order the Sunya IAS books or you can go for the handwritten notes while the class is going on, right? Now, I'm sure you must be remembering, we are starting the topic now. I'm sure you must be remembering two female officers of Karnataka, administrative officers of Karnataka, using social media to defame each other. I will not take the names, but one of those officers actually put up some pictures of the other female officer as well. And the sad part was that these two officers, especially one of them, is very decorated officers. What do you mean by decorated officers? They're very valued, very respected officers. People look forward to them. People look at them as their as someone who take motivation from, who they take motivation from. So the Karnataka case of two female officers demeaning each other, or in fact not even demeaning, defaming each other publicly. What does this mean? There were comments going like, you know, there's a cat fight of the IS officers. Women are fighting. There were stereotypes regarding women, how women always end up fighting, and how, you know, civil services was being tarnished because of that. So when you talk about issues like social media and its use by the civil servants, it is very important that you use case studies, because without mentioning case studies, your answer becomes a very generic answer who anyone can write. Even if someone is preparing for the past 1 month, or if someone is, you know, just read an article about this, they can write. What will make you different is that you cite the case studies while you are mentioning points. Okay. So we will talk about how to do that. We will complete the process of creating the perfect answer for you for this topic if this topic comes as a separate question. Separate question, maximum for 10 marks it can come, but there's very less chance. This is a question, this is a topic that is more probable to be asked in the interview. Okay. In fact, I can tell you, not in my real interview, but the mock interviews that I gave, one of the people in the mock interviews, he actually asked me that what do you think about the excessive social media usage by the civil servants and all of that. So it was a question that was expected. It could have been asked to someone or the other, right? Because it's a burning issue. So it can be asked as a separate question, or it can be used in civil services reforms question, and it is an issue plaguing the civil services right now. Getting it? Now let's start. So, merits of using social media by civil servants. See, as aspirants, I understand that there is this bias. Either you worship the people who use social media excessively, है ना, you follow the people, you keep on checking Instagram, Facebook to know if there is any, you know, new update and all. Or aspirants have a very strong, what do you call it? A very strong belief against using the social media. So when you have a very strong belief against something, your answers should not reflect that. And that is the quality of a civil servant. Whether you think that civil servants should be using the social media or should not be using the social media, or using the social media in a certain way, whatever your personal bias is, do not let it out in your answer. Why am I saying this here? Because we are going to talk about the merits of the merits of using social media as well. Now, before I go forward, just think about 5 merits on your own. This is a practice that you need to do every class. Sometimes I might not be able to give you this time, you know, to pause and to think about it. But if I don't give you, yourself pause the video and yourself think, what are the 5 merits? Don't think about the classification, sub-classification. Just think about the 5 merits. So what can be the 5 merits? Pause the video and think about it. Without even looking at anything, one thing is connectivity. Connectivity with people, right? So mostly in a world wherein we do know our ministers, but we do not know who our DM is, social media can help us connect with the people and also help us gain solutions to our issues in a faster manner, right? The second, it also leads to increased accountability. Because if, let's say, there is a corruption scandal that comes out, then there will be instances wherein people will put pressure. You know, there will be comments, there will be questions on the social media, and people will ask, what are you doing? Why are you engaging in corruption? And the accountability will increase, right? This actually happened in Gujarat elections, wherein a Gujarat election officer, who is a very well-renowned former IAS officer turned actor now. He's not an IAS officer now, he's become an actor. But he was appointed as an election official in Gujarat, and he posted a picture with the official car and, you know, everything. So his position was revoked after that post. So accountability increases. Then grievance redressal becomes faster, right? If you go to the official websites and try to find out the phone numbers of people who are DM or SDM or whatever, it's very difficult that the official numbers will be available or someone will pick over there. Okay. So here I have personally seen so many officers who have been selected and who are helping out people through social media, right? That becomes an open channel. Another thing which can be beneficial that way is awareness generation. And here again a case study, I'm sure all of you will be aware with this. There is an officer in Srinagar called Athar Amir Khan, right? and he keeps on posting the initiatives that the Srinagar Municipal Corporation is taking for the development of Srinagar, right? So you can use positive case studies. There is no issue with that, right? Positive case studies. What happens in negative case studies, using a lot of negative case studies, why I used the name here and I did not use the name in the case of the Karnataka two female officers, is because you never know what is the bias of the person who is checking your sheet. Okay, so what if they had another view on that particular thing? And it can be anything, it can be a personal connection also. So you don't have to get emotional about anything. Just make sure that you minimize your chances of losing marks for any untowardly reason. Okay, that is there. Then after awareness generation, another thing, another benefit of using social media can be increased pace of development. Let's say the government of India makes a compulsory policy that every bureaucrat has to have an official account. Let's say. So that means that if every bureaucrat will have an official account, they will have to upload everything that is being done, just like a prime minister has an official account, every ministry has an official account. Similarly, every bureaucrat shall have an official account. So in that manner, it will lead to faster achievement of the goals that need to be achieved, because again, there will be accountability and there will be pressure, right? Now let's see the points. The points are very similar. They are just divided into some subheads. So socially, there will be ease of access, creating a positive outlook about bureaucracy, because the Babu culture that has been there and the Mai Baap culture that has been there in bureaucracy is very harmful, right? So when we see that bureaucrats are just people like us, that is the time we can relate to them more. Okay, so that is there. Then awareness and citizen connect. These are two separate points. Awareness generation, as I told you, and citizen connect. Then administrative merits are also there. So information dissemination, which is again similar to awareness. Taking public feedback is also important. So as I told you, that faster achievement of goals. How will it happen? By ensuring that public feedback for a particular policy is being taken, right? That is there. And better policy making eventually, when information flows in all directions in a very positive manner, then it invariably leads to a better decision making, better policy making, because all the stakeholders are involved. And this also leads us to the stakeholder approach. It also leads us to the stakeholder approach, that all the stakeholders need to be involved in policy making and policy execution. Okay, then demerits of using social media by civil servants. Again, pause the video and again think what can be the demerits of it. Okay, I hope you have done that, and it's very important that you don't fool yourself. Just think about 5 ways why social media can be harmful, and this will come very naturally to you. Okay, if you have to just mention it through one words or one phrase lines, it can be damages the reputation, right? It can lead to damage of reputation. You can use the Karnataka 2 IAS officers example over here. Then it can also lead to fraud, social media and civil servants. If it becomes a norm, that all the civil servants use social media to interact with people, the miscreants can use social media to pose as civil servants and actually engage in frauds. And this is not something out of the blue. This has happened in UP in 2023 itself. In UP, there is a place called Pratapgarh, and in Pratapgarh, two people were arrested for posing as IAS and IPS officers and asking for money from people to help some or the other sections of the society. So that is also a fallout of usage of social media by civil servants. That is an issue that can be created. Then another thing that can happen is populism. Populism among bureaucrats can rise. So populism means that people will do the activities which is gaining more likes, more followers, and more interaction at the level of social media, and the actual welfare activities will go for a toss. Then again, the most important thing is loss of anonymity. The primary asset of a civil servant is the anonymity of the civil servant, right? The public representative is the famous one, and the brain behind the public representative is your civil servant. So when you come in front of the people, है ना, as a direct representative, you have eliminated the distinction between the popular representatives and the permanent executive. And that distinction is very important for the functioning of a democracy, because you are not the one who has been elected by the people. So this populism and this vote taking, syndrome and everything, it might suit the ministers to some extent. It does not suit a bureaucrat at all. Then think about it. It's a major distraction. So again, there is a negative case study over here. There is this very famous officer who has a YouTube channel with more than 3 million subscribers, right? And what he does is, he just, whatever task he's doing, or maybe he's going for a raid, or maybe whatever he's doing, he's carrying a person along with him, and that person is shooting his video. That video is being edited and all, and it's being uploaded on the YouTube. So he has become sort of a star in his own right. So you can just give an example over here. YouTube channels being run by IPS officers. This particular person is an IPS officer. Okay. If you are in this journey, in this preparation journey for more than a year, or even if you've just entered, you just type on YouTube IPS officer, right? IPS officer at work, IPS officer, anything, and you will get this particular channel with millions and millions of followers and views and whatnot. So these are the issues. It's a distraction, right? You are not actually focusing on what is your job. I hope you applied your mind and you were able to think of some of these issues before we go. I do not want to spoon feed you in every aspect. I want that these videos inculcate a sense of critical thinking in your mind, that there are some positive aspects also and some negative aspects also. And if you think about it, we have been able to write at least 5 to 7 case studies till now in this particular answer, and that is what will differentiate your answer from any generic answer for whom someone has not worked that much. Okay, now let's see. See, it creates false notions. Administratively, it creates false notion, and it creates a sort of a superhuman image. It creates of a superhuman image of this particular officer. Like if you see the YouTube channel that I'm talking about, you will see that, portraying yourself as the hero and everything. And even this former IAS officer, okay, now because he's a former IAS officer, I can tell you the name also. This is not the YouTube channel that I'm talking about. This is the IAS officer turned actor. So this was the IAS officer called Abhishek Singh, and he's right now into movies and everything. But the thing is that if you go to his Instagram profile, even today the word IAS is mentioned in description, right? So because there is a loophole, because he knows that he cannot be penalized for it, then, this thing is continuing. But it is problematic. It's creating false notions, and it is compromising with the image of bureaucracy itself, which is not done, right? Loss of anonymity, as I told you, civil services values, anonymity is one of them. Neutrality, anonymity, these are the values that we need to cherish as civil servants. And if that does not happen, there is degradation of civil services overall. Then personal values can take a center stage rather than the values of the state. So what are our state values? Let's say civil services runs on the values of, um, as I said, neutrality, public service, non-political execution, everything. So all these values will take a backseat, and let's say if someone has a religious bias, if someone has a caste bias, anything of that sort, that will come into the forefront, and that becomes problematic. Then execution bias, political bias, all these aspects will come into the picture. Public opinion of bureaucracy will degrade, because initially, this stardom culture and everything, that gained a lot of currency initially, but now people are actually not taking it in the best of, best taste. That officers are actually spending public resources, public time, every hour, every minute that an officer is spending at office, the taxpayers are paying for that. Okay, so if that time is being used for some other activity, it is not done. Okay. Institutionalization of social media. Now, this is a problem, and this is a term that you must use. If social media, let's say right now X, which is formerly Twitter, X is an institutional way of connecting with people for the ministries, right? Every update that has to be done is done on X, on Twitter. But the thing is, have you forgotten that it is not an Indian company? It is a foreign company. It's a private company for that matter. It's not even a government portal, right? It's not like that it's the website of United Nations or something. It's a private company on whom we are relying so much. So all this Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, all these are getting institutionalized as methods of communication. And this is not something that should happen, because what if the company tomorrow gets bankrupt? What if the company has major data leaks? Because if you are having these conversations also through these platforms, the data can get leaked. And overall, it's not about one officer. It is about the collective image of bureaucracy that gets hurt, right? Then principle of neutrality and anonymity is, of course, compromised. Politically, professional identity is, of course, distorted. We all are aware of this. We have talked about it. And socially, there is undue self-promotion, like this IS officer turned actor that I told you about. It was not necessary to use the public cars and come into the limelight and, all of that. And this self-promotion is seen massively with the newly recruited bureaucrats. Newly recruited bureaucrats are having this major celebrity syndrome, which is becoming a problem for overall culture of bureaucracy. And as they go into the services, they get involved in the services, mostly it fades out. But sometimes this culture of social media and self-promotion keeps on very strongly, and that has to be curbed. There have to be official guidelines for these for the misuse of social media, and if civil servants do that. Now, with respect to the government intervention, there is not much government intervention that has happened here, though some statements have been made by some political leaders here and there. In fact, the Prime Minister also made a statement about how constructive use of social media can be done. But officially, there is just All India Services Conduct Rules of 1968. And these rules, as you can see, they are very old. And there is no specific provision for social media as such. There are provisions which restrict an officer from any undue criticism, right? Because you are a government employee. So you cannot criticize the government itself, because if you criticize, it's just like being being the employee of a company and criticizing that same company in front of other company people, right? Reduce the it will reduce the it will tarnish the image of your company. So similarly, when you are employed by the government, you cannot unduly criticize this particular government and its initiative. You cannot embarrass the relations. You cannot embarrass the relations between government and state and government and foreign states, right? So the central government and state, there should be no, and especially because these are all India services, so they are recruited by the center but they work at the state. So what happens because of this is there can always be a conflict of interest, especially when the officer is working in a state where there is a different ruling party. So at the center there is a different ruling party, at the state there is a different ruling party, and the officer has a lot of discretion at his or her hands on how to manage these relations, right? So conduct rules talk about not to embarrass the relations between them. Conduct rules talk about how no undue criticism should be there, but conduct rules do not talk about social media specifically, and that is why there needs to be amendment in the conduct rules, because they're very old first of all, and social media has come up in the past 10 years as a very recent phenomena, but a very strong phenomena. So they need to be regulated. So this is the only thing, right? Then what is the way forward? Think about the way forward again. Pause the video. Think about 5 ways on which in which this problem can be solved, because every topic that you prepare it like a 15 marker. Okay, every topic should be prepared like a 15 marker, so that at least you can do it well for a 10 marker, and in a 15 marker also mostly you'll be able to handle it. So way forward, first thing is that the identity of the particular officer should be clearly established, right? So there should be no scope of fraud. And you would be seeing, you know, on Instagram also, if you are a government employee, you need to be, you get certified also from Instagram. So there's a small faded word that comes up and it just says public official or government official, right? So this kind of validation for being an official government office holder is necessary, so that the fraud that I just told you about in Pratapgarh that happened in UP, those kind of things do not happen, right? So the full name, the post, the cadre, everything has to be there, and preferably there has to be a disclaimer also that if I am posting anything, that is all views are personal, all posts are personal, and you will see some very decorated officers doing this, and that is the way to go, you know, whatever you post, the views are personal. And the best thing to do as a public officer, to be very honest, is that maintain 2 accounts. Maintain one public account wherein you can interact with the public, put very selective information over there, and maintain one private account, a locked account, wherein only your close ones are there and you want to share some things with them, share your life updates with them, you can do that. Okay, so this is one way that you can actually use social media as a civil servant. Then an authority needs to be created, or an authority needs to be designated to see if social media and its usage by the civil servants is creating issue, right? You are an authority in the eyes of people, right? So first of all, create an authority that manages all of this. And second is, do not respond or do not comment on any XYZ post if it is not completely necessary. So it is very important to carry an officer-like conduct. It's very important to carry an officer-like conduct, and your social media profile is a reflection of that. So you must carry that. Then your posts should be posts of relevance. Again, the public private dichotomy that I told you about. There has to be professionalism that is reflected. There has to be openness for criticism also, right? So if you are there on social media, some officers are not there on social media, right? Because social media can become very taxing also mentally. But if you are there on social media and if people are commenting, you need to receive those comments in positive light. Okay, no obscenity is to be encouraged, but definitely you need to take in some criticism as well. Then compliance with rules has to be there. So here we can also give an example of the US rules, US directives for usage of social media. In the United States of America, there are specific directives for the civil servants about how they have to use social media. And in India, unofficially, these directives have started being given. You know, in the training academy in Labasna also, you get these kind of directives how to use social media, but it's not institutionalized. That is the problem, right? So you need to comply with these directives, and to comply, these directives have to be created first. Then privacy concerns have to be respected. Public policy has to be improved on the lines of this. Also, we can create some rules which are a little stricter for the civil servants. So for example, in France has recently made a rule that the French civil servants cannot use the application TikTok. So TikTok cannot be used. TikTok cannot be used or downloaded also in the mobile phones of these civil servants of France. This might come off as a surveillance state model, but some minimal, you call them de minimis, some minimal standards of behavior, some minimal standards of conduct are expected from civil servants, and that is why such activities. What will TikTok do on the mobile phone of a civil servant whose job is not to be an influencer, whose job is to be an administrator? TikTok should not do anything on their phone, right? That is there. And use of social media should be to bring light to facts overall, right? So as I said, awareness generation. So there can be some models that can be emulated, as I gave you some examples also. Awareness generation and evoking the interest of people in governance overall, right? That should be the goal of using social media, not populist policies, not celebrity syndrome. And definitely we do need some guidelines on how to use social media for the civil servants. In fact, I think for that matter, for the entire country, we do need some guidelines on how to use social media. But for coming back to the topic, for UPSC civil services, this is very important that you understand that this topic can come up any year as a separate question also, or as a point in civil services reforms also, right? So when you conclude, you can conclude by something like, civil services conduct, या civil servants conduct कर लो. Civil servants conduct, does the civil servants conduct, and when you write civil servants, write like this, plural and then apostrophe. Civil servants conduct defines the steel frame of India while social media in this light must be used to enhance and enrich their role as bureaucrats working for policy implementation, right? shows a very balanced outlook that what is the job of a civil servant. It is policy implementation. Whatever usage of social media you are doing as a civil servant, it has to be related to, especially on a public account, it has to be related to policy implementation. You have your own personal life, keep it personal. No celebrity syndrome is to be developed. And if celebrity syndrome you want to develop also, you develop it through your work, right? That is what civil services stand for. Okay. All right. So that is all for today's class. I hope you derived some value out of it. I know that you all use social media, and social media is full of bureaucrats on social media, intentionally, unintentionally, whatever they say become headlines. I know that. But this topic is important for your GS too. So take it in that light. Always end your lecture with the note that what did I derive from this lecture that I can use in my exam. Okay. Apart from this being a general, studies and general knowledge class, primary motive is to make you exam ready, mains ready. So always at the end of the class, think that what did I derive from this class? So I'll see you all in the next lecture. Thank you for watching. Take care.